Welcome back to my series of videos about the Dark Eye core rulebooks. This is the video about the chapter 3 about hero creation. We're not going through hero creation in total detail, which means I'm not going to tell you what every option you have does to your character, what stat changes it does. I'm not going to explain you when you choose this species or this culture or this profession, you get these skill values or something. I'm not going through all the special abilities you can choose or something, but I will go through all the steps so you know the basic mechanic that you have to choose a species, a culture, a profession, disadvantages, advantages, and I give a bit of background about this. The hero creation is actually quite lengthy and involves a lot of steps. This is a list of steps. It's 15 steps overall. You don't have them to take in this order. Mostly it is you may have good reason and maybe a good idea to start with a later step or something. For example, the first step that is here is what do you want to play? If you're new to the game, then what do you want to play is probably one of the least things you will know, because first you have to know what species can I play, what cultures do I have, can this person be from, my NSC, my player character be from, what profession can he have, what can he play, a bard, a magician, what kind of magicians, and so on. And so you might build your character around a certain set of special abilities or advantages or disadvantages. So it makes more sense to first look at the options you have, and you can easily, you don't have to do this in this order. You're mostly free in what order you pick. If you pick first disadvantages or advantages or something, there's only one step you really have to take first. The first step is what do you want to play. You have to come up with that on your own. You can make it later, but the first step you have to choose, you have to take before you can do really anything else, is choose your starting level. That's usually something you would choose for the whole group you're playing in. And there are different starting levels, starting with inexperienced to legendary, and the usual starting level supposed for a starting character is experienced. And what the starting level does, it gives you a certain amount of experience points to spend on abilities and skills. The whole character creation works with buying stuff for experience points, and your starting level gives you a certain amount of experience points. If you're legendary, you get 2,000. How many is it? I have to check it. I can read it there. 2,100, I think. It is 2,100, and if you're an experienced character, you get 1,100, and if you're an inexperienced character, you get 900. The next list is the maximum attribute value you can have in this experience level. That's 14 for an experienced character. And then it is your highest skill value you can have. It's 10 for an experienced character, and your highest attack value you can have, or combat value you can have, it's 12 for an experienced character. And then it is the maximum sum of attribute values you can have. Your maximum attribute value for a single attribute is 14, but you cannot set every of your 8 attributes to 14. You can only have a sum of them all be 100 for an experienced character. And the last two values are for spellcasters and priests. It basically tells you what spells you can take. For example, you can take 12 spells as the spellcaster, as an experienced spellcaster, and 2 of these spells can be from another class, so to say. If you're a magician, you will have magician spells, but you can choose 2 spells from witches or from elven, if it makes sense. That's the starting level. Next step is choosing your species. There aren't any species to choose from, but within the species there are races you can choose from which modify your character more and make them different, the same species different, because you can be a human, you can be like an African human, an Arabian human, and white human, or you can be an Indian human, the equivalent in the Dark Eye, as I explained, as I talked about the world. The species gives you, a new race gives you a set of base values, your hit points, your resistance values, your speed, because dwarves are slower because they have shorter legs, and elves are better at resisting magic or something, but they're weaker and have less hit points, things like that. It also gives you a modifier on your maximum attribute value. For example, for a human, as an experienced character, you can have 14 in attribute value, that's the maximum, but as a human you can choose one, which you are allowed to set to 15. And for other races it's different, they get a lower value or a higher value or something. And the species can automatically give you advantages or disadvantages. For example, that's only the case for Elven, because Elven are automatically spellcasters, and they automatically can, when they're singing, they can sing with two voices. I don't know how to properly translate this. That's a special kind of singing that elves can do, and it's important for the rituals they can make. And when you choose this a species that gives you the Elven, that gives you advantages, you just have to pay for these advantages. The price you have to pay is the exact same price you would have to pay if you just took these advantages at a later stage. Everybody can choose the ability spellcaster, and it simply costs what it costs here. Else, your species is important for your looks, because if you're like an African people, you're gonna have very dark skin, or if you're Arabian, you're darker, and if you're a Midden Realmian, you're basically like an European. And also associated to the race and species are typical hair colors, typical eye colors, and a build which makes you, of your body, which makes you a certain weight based on your height. The height is also based on your, because Elven are larger, are taller, Dwarven are shorter, human are somewhere in the middle, but depending on the race of human, you are taller. For example, the Viking people are the tallest humans, and so on. The Torvala, the Viking people, Viking-like people. Next step is culture. Culture is basically where you're raised, the environment in which you were raised. This can be equivalent to a country, but also different countries can have the same, or different region can have the same culture. But mostly it is a country or a kingdom or an empire you were raised in. And it doesn't really give you a lot of stats. Mostly it tells you what language you speak and what culture you know. You know the conventions on this culture, and gives you or prevents you from getting some negative modifiers on tests within the cultures for social talents or something. But mostly it's about the language and what you know, and maybe what region you are used to. And there is also a list of talents associated with the culture, for because people in this culture have a basic knowledge about certain talents, about certain knowledge talents or something, because it is typical for the culture, and you just learn something about all these stuff. But you don't have to take them. These are purely optional, and if you take them, you just pay whatever these talents would cost if you chose them freely. I'm going to explain more about cultures and explain the different cultures in the chapter about cultures. You can see here the first ones are human cultures, then elven cultures, and dwarven cultures. And what culture you can choose or should choose depends on your species you chose. Of course, when you chose a dwarf, you're going to choose a dwarven culture. As human, you're going to choose a human culture. As elf, you're going to choose an elven culture. As half-elf, you're going to choose a human or an elven culture. And you can always decide to be crazy and choose something very unusual, like a dwarf that was raised among humans. That would be unusual, but there is no game mechanic that would get you really into trouble. You're pretty freely. If your game master is okay, if the other people playing with you is okay with it, you can simply do it. Next step is choosing your attribute values. As I said, you get a maximum for your attribute values. As an experienced character, the average character starting level, you can have up to 14 in your 8 attributes, and you may not have spent more than 100 points on all the attributes. And for your convenience, and because it's easier, you have a chart here on the right, and this chart just uses 100 points for attributes and distributes them in different ways on these attributes. And you can choose one of the combinations down here. It tells you what it costs to buy these attributes for 100 points in sum. And there's also a table for the special case that you have, because you can have one attribute at 15 as a human, or as another, and this is an example with 2 values at 15, because some of the species allow this. So you don't really have to calculate a lot. You can just pick one of the combinations of attribute values and then assign them to your attributes, and down here it says what it would cost you. Otherwise, you can just distribute whatever you want. This table tells you what you have to pay. Basically, from 0 to, or from 1 to 14, you simply pay 15 experience points for every point. Is there anything else to say? No, I don't think so. And I think I'll make a cut here, because we're over 10 minutes. Next step would be profession. That's it for now. If you have any question about this, if you think I explained something wrong, correct me, send me a message, ask in the comments what you want to know, and I try to explain it. If someone else sees the question and knows the answer, I would be delighted if you answered it for me, so I have less work to do. That's it for now. For the first steps of the character creation, next will be step 6, profession.